Okay, so just a little bit of housekeeping. I'm watching the presentation just like you are. So we'll try our best to save a little bit of time at the end for questions. Definitely, please feel free to call me out on any kind of things that I've talked about today. But yeah, the topic of today's webinar and stream is social selling. Now, I'm Chief Revenue Officer for Brand24, which is a really fancy title for being in sales. But the reason why we call it Chief Revenue Officer is because we want to try to anticipate all the different ways we can sell, all the different channels. And one of them is social media. But many people have been talking about this buzzword, which is social selling for a long time now. But we don't always know what this buzzword means. And this is the kind of the hard part. And this is what I want to focus on today. You know, we read the articles, we listen to the gurus who say, you know, you should be social selling. This is what you should be doing. But, you know, what does it mean? How do I get started? You know, it's such a vague term that we really just don't know what to actually do next. So what I want to do today is I want to focus on parts of social selling that you can actually go and get started with tomorrow. You can pass it to your team. And hopefully I'm going to kind of deliver it to you in a way that is really easy to understand. So I break down social selling into three different categories. One I call social stalking, which I'm going to cover in a second. One is social surrounding. And then the last one is lead generation. So, you know, hardcore, straightforward lead generation. So, you know, let's get to the first topic, which is what I call social stalking. And it's very, very straightforward. It's not being this guy in the shop window. It's not about traditional stalking, you know, looking through windows and going through people's trash. We've all heard those crazy salesman stories. It's about using social media to really better understand your leads, your potential new customers. So, you know, traditionally, even in today's modern age, let's say, for example, I believe that CallPage could really benefit from using my tool at Brand24. Now, traditionally, what we would do is we'd go to their website, we'd learn a little bit about CallPage, we see what they do, and we'd get to this section here in the bottom left-hand corner, which is contact us. This is the page that traditionally salespeople have always been looking for. You know, I need a phone number, I need an email address, I don't care whose it is, I don't care what it's going to do. I'm going to pick up the phone, I'm going to call through to CallPage and say, I want to speak to your social media manager. Now, we all know that, you know, many companies get those kind of calls 10, 20, 30 a day. And as soon as somebody isn't asking for somebody by name, those calls often get rejected. You know, only 3% of cold calling is now effective, in the fact that effective means that it even gets a response. But what social media helps us do is learn about our leads, because I'm a big believer in the fact that people are completely happy with being sold to when we can actually prove and when we can actually show that we've done the effort. We've made that effort to do that. So the very first thing that I can do is I can go to LinkedIn and I can start to look at actually who works at CallPage. Who do I want to speak to? You know, it took me 2 clicks to get a name. And I'm looking here and I'm going, okay, I've got a CMO, I've got a CEO, and I've got a head of growth. I want to go to the head of growth because I believe that social selling and social monitoring is where the market is going forward. And I want the guy or the girl who is most focused on what they're going to do next for their company. So I found Peter. And the next thing I'm going to be able to do is I'm going to be able to learn about Peter. So, for example, Brand24, the normal pitch that we would have is we can tell you when you're mentioned about, when your company is mentioned anywhere on the online, anywhere on the web. Now, that's a pretty weak pitch from my point of view. So what I can do by going into LinkedIn, I can see that Peter follows Business Insider. So if I go to Peter and say, Peter, wouldn't you like to know when CallPage is mentioned by Business Insider? It's a much stronger pitch because I'm really tapping at the areas that I know he's interested in. So instead of pitching, hopefully saying, hey, Peter, wouldn't you like to know if you were mentioned on Mashable? Maybe he would. Would you like to know if you were mentioned in the Guardian newspaper? Maybe he would. But I know that Peter values Business Insider. He follows them. It's his interest. So I'm already learning before I've even picked up the phone or before I've even written that first email, what are the key important aspects for Peter. The second thing is I can find Peter also from a social point of view. Now, here's a screenshot of Peter's fan page or Facebook page even today. I'm very lucky because me and Peter are already friends on social, but still I can start to learn things about him. He's addicted to books. He's a problem solver. He's a chess addict. If I go to his likes, I can even go through his TV programs. Now, you might ask yourself, like, what has that got to do with business? Well, I want to break the ice with Peter. I need to build his trust and I need to build his thing. So again, imagine I get Peter on the phone. Hey, Peter, it's Mick from Brand 24. I've got a solution that I really think can help you out. It can tell you when you're mentioned on Business Insider. I can try and get you some leads. Hell, you could even track Game of Thrones if you want. By the way, did you see episode 1 of season 7? How awesome was that? No spoilers, by the way. Don't turn it away now. I also haven't watched episode 1 yet of season 7. But again, I am breaking down those barriers because when it comes to selling, traditionally people put their barriers up. They're like, oh my God, Mickey's going to sell me something. I need to protect myself. But by showing them familiarities, by putting them on a level where you show them that you know about them, and you pick topics that are familiar to them, you're already breaking those barriers down. So just from a few clicks, I've already made Peter's experience with me much more familiar and probably much more enjoyable than, hi, I would like to speak to the head of growth at CallPage, please. I've got an interesting offer. Would you like to increase the number of sales in your company? Of course I would. But how is that any different than the 50 calls Peter got before me? So using social stalking allows you and your teams to much better prepare for that first pitch. So I strongly recommend. In 3 minutes, I found that information out about Peter, and 3 minutes invested in showing your future leads that you actually care enough about them to actually investigate them by 5 minutes will actually much improve your conversion. So the second section we've got here now is social surround. Okay, so this is a really simple tactic that somewhat comes off as even subliminal messaging, subliminal marketing. So I've got a post here from Peter's Facebook page. He's shared a story from Wired. And what I've done is I've liked it. Now, Peter's a great example because Peter is like myself and like many of us out there. You know, we enjoy social. We have tons of networks, but luckily for us, engagement on social is still relatively small or medium. So Peter just shared this post today, but he hasn't got any likes on it yet because he's not sharing to get likes. He's sharing to inform. So when I like it as Mick Griffin and Peter gets that little ping, he looks and he's thinking to himself, who is Mick Griffin? And what, you know, I don't know this guy. I've never heard of him. He's liked my post. Okay, fair enough. Furthermore, let's say, for example, I've took a post here that Peter shared on the 17th of July and I've commented. So what I've done here is, again, I'm not pitching. I'm not selling him the product. He doesn't even know about Brand 24, for example, yet. But I've showed him that I value his content, which I truly do. I'm not faking it. I looked through the posts that I thought were most relevant and I shared it. Now, there's two things here. One, I'm inserting myself once again into Peter's daily life without having to interrupt him. I'm not calling him at 5 p.m. when he's having his dinner with his family saying, would you like to buy insurance or would you like to upgrade your phone contract? I'm letting Peter know I'm there in a space and in an environment that he feels comfortable. So he's now not only got that, but there's a little kicker to this one. Because of the beauty of Facebook, he also sees my face. Suddenly, Mick is not CRO from Brand 24 trying to pitch me all his products. There's a face to the name. Suddenly, it's a real person. So when I do reach out again and I'm like, hey, Peter, it's Mick from Brand 24, we've lowered the barriers that people put up when they're talking to salespeople, because he knows how I look. He knows that he's had some experience with me in the past. And then I tell him how awesome Game of Thrones is. So instantly we're creating better experiences. And again, I don't approach this kind of mentality from what's going to make me more money. I approach this kind of mentality as selling is hard. Selling is really tough. Like, sometimes sales calls really make me feel bad, because, the way that conversion works is that if you get 1 in 100 or 1 in 10 people saying yes, you're doing really well. So I approach this with, well, how can I make my call with Peter easier for me and for him? This is a two-way street. I'm going to be a happier salesperson because the people I'm calling are actually a little bit more open to me. And Peter's definitely going to remember me as the one guy that didn't pitch him and made him feel like everybody else. So social surrounding is really about inserting your name, inserting your brand name into your lead's life before they even know that they're a lead, and doing it as organically as you possibly can. And then, of course, be everywhere. So the first thing I did is I liked CallPage. I liked his business page. There's a chance that Peter is an admin of this page. There's a chance that someone else is an admin. But again, I want to know about his business, and I want him to know that I've been looking into his business. So we've got lots of avenues now. And that was just one. That was just Facebook. You can do this on LinkedIn. You could find him on Instagram. We've got all these social sharing channels where you can actually show and insert yourself and insert that impression of your name before you go and pick up the phone, before you decide that you're worthy of his time. So this is really how social media helps us do that. Now, the third section here, and this is the kind of the bulk of what I want to talk about today, is lead generation, because the bottom line is this is the one that we want. It's great to nurture and develop leads that we already have, but who are those leads going to be in the first place? I'm a startup. I've got a new business. I don't know how to get started. This is where social media is going to be your best friend from now on. So I broke it down into 3 sections because there are that many different benefits from using social media for lead generation. So the first benefit is that you can compile leads. You can start to store leads, qualified leads of people that could be interested in your service. So, many of us still do go to jigsawdata.com. We buy leads. I get an email all the time, and I think I'll show you this in a second, of people offering leads. And what I want to do is I want to show you how to get qualified leads for free. The second thing we talk about is one-to-one. And this is what we call the low-hanging fruit. And then the third section of this is one-to-many. And this is how to do some interaction, some engagement on social, online, that will not only impact the person that you're having it with, but that it's visible across the board. So I'm going to show you these 3 items today that you can actually implement straight away. So the first one is to talk about how we can compile leads. So as I talked about, I am sure that I am not alone on today's call when I get an email like this. Mick, would you be interested in email leads from your target industry? And they give me the whole blurb about what is actually there. They're offering me a fax number. I mean, I don't even know what in what century anyone is still pitching or cold faxing leads. Maybe it's the future. Maybe it's the uncontested section. But the first thing this screams is that this is nothing to do for me. They have themselves, they're practicing what they preach. And probably the sad thing is that they are probably selling my email address thousands times over every single day as part of this offering. So, I plead with salespeople to evolve, because people that do this kind of selling are kind of making it a little bit harder for the rest of us that really want to do it well. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So the first thing that I do is I use social media, and I use social media listening tool. I use Brand24, but you can use various different tools that are on the market today to track all the people that are talking about social media monitoring in every single month. So First of all, here's a live screenshot. There are over 2,700 people talking about social media monitoring every single month. I can be pretty sure that those people are potential leads of mine. Now, of course, there are going to be in there maybe some of my competitors, but still, let's take even 10% away. I got 2,400 leads that I can be sure are interested in what I deliver, what I offer, right off the bat. And our industry is pretty specific. So if you went in here and you did CRM, or you did email marketing, or you went for restaurants or hotels in New York City, the volume would be even greater. But again, this is instant data. Instead of me going, okay, I'm going to smash 10,000 emails out tomorrow to a guy that I don't know and hope that 1% of them reply, what you can do using social media is you can be sure that a lead is qualified because they're talking about it. You know, here is Sam, and let me kind of just maybe put a little fear away here, because this is also important from time to time. Is, you know, Sam, he was dissatisfied with Radian 6, one of my competitors. Okay, now traditionally we think to ourselves, we don't want to be pushy salespeople. We hate pushy salespeople. So replying to this, like I did, I wrote, you know, hey Sam, we would love to show you our business. Traditionally, that feels very salesy. You know, it feels like that pushy salesperson. But what we've actually got here is that Sam even complimented me on picking up the tweet. Now, I have to pick up that tweet because I have to practice what I preach. This is what my tool does. We listen and we find. But what I want you to think about a little bit deeper here is Sam's methodology. Like, again, if Sam was just deep down angry or disappointed with Radian 6 and he just had this inside him, he would vent it. He would vent it to the guys and women in his office and say, you know, I am sick and tired of this service. I'm sick and tired of this. It's driving me up the wall. I'm so upset. I'm so frustrated, like we do every day, right? But then you think to yourself, well, why has Sam written this on Twitter? Why has he posted this publicly? As a consumer in B2B or B2C, he's written this because he wants a response. He wants somebody to react. He wants somebody to help him with this problem. Otherwise, he wouldn't be sharing it. And what he's done here is he's tagged Salesforce and Radian 6 because he wants them to react. He wants them to say sorry. He wants them to help. And the fact that I've responded is me offering to solve his problem. So it's not a pushy salesperson. It almost becomes the person who's standing up and saying, I will help you today, even though I'm pitching my service. So this is a prime example of a consumer saying, thank you, which in the world of sales doesn't happen very often, right? And what you can do is you can take all of these people. So I've got 2,700 people talking about social media monitoring every month. It doesn't mean that I have to reply to them instantly. It doesn't mean that I have to be, you know, hot on the press to grab them and sell the crap out of them. I can store them. I can stockpile them. I might be a startup and I might be the CEO and the only person that actually knows how to sell and has time to sell. And I might decide, listen, well, I'm going to sell just for one day a week. Would you rather go through the yellow pages or start Google companies? Or would you rather start with a list of people you know are talking about the problem that you solve? And you can import these kind of stuff into your CRM systems. You can use it. And the beauty of it is you know where those people hang out. So it's no longer a guess of should I email, should I call, should I knock on the door, should I send them a post? You know that this person is on Twitter because that's where they wrote about it. So if you respond on Twitter, you're going to be sure of some kind of engagement. I'm going to show you those statistics in a second. I'll talk to you about how we do it. Now, the second part of this lead generation is one-to-many. And my community team at Brand24, they hate me talking about this because traditionally when we talk about it, people go and do it, and then their life gets a little bit more harder because the space gets more complex. But we want to share. I want to tell you what works for us. I want to tell you the things that work for us really well. So we all probably have blog posts and blog sites and content on our website and so on like that. And we want to have our own audience that come to our sites every day to learn about the problems that we solve. But this takes time. It takes time, it takes money, it takes patience to start and generate your own audience. You know, it takes time to become a thought leader. What we don't always realize is that there are people out there talking about the problem that you solve already without you. They're already there. So, for example, here is a LinkedIn group talking about social media marketing. I didn't have to host that. I didn't have to start it. This is actually helpful. So there is already a community that I can insert myself into. There is a Facebook group called Social Media Managers Group. I can be there. This conversation is going and it already is hosted. And our sweet spot was Quora. So Quora, Q&A question sites, for those who don't use it, is basically what are the best solutions for personal online reputation management? This is what we solve. This is what we do. This is not our site. So what we decided to do at Brand24 was to be there. We decided to actually take our team, and instead of waiting for people from Quora to come and find us, we started to add value here. So here is Gloria from our team. We have Gloria and Cuba, who are our customer success managers, and they go through Quora and they look for places where they can actually solve problems. Now, this is great, right? Because somebody asked a question, we answered it. Hopefully we answered it in a good way, and they came to Brand24. That's one-to-one. But what you have to realize is that more than one person saw this answer. So if you actually type this question into Google, Quora does an awesome job at being ranked really well on Google organic search. So suddenly that answer is not only viewed by the person that asked it in Quora, but it's being viewed by everybody that puts that question into Google, because we all like to click on, result number one. The second thing is that we're very, very transparent. We don't pretend to be a customer of Brand24 or anything like that. We actually advertise that we work at Brand24. This is what we do. This is, Gloria's profile. You can see it. But what I want you to also pay attention to is the number in the top right-hand corner where it tells you how many views Gloria's answers have. It has 917,000 impressions. So please understand just how much that would cost you from an ads point of view. By going to Quora, instead of trying to pull people over with advertisements about Brand24 or so on, we've managed to generate almost 1 million impressions on our brand via Gloria, a human, which also helps us with that trust factor, to know about our company. And this then, in the long term, turns into traffic. So here you can see this is real. This is our referral sections of our Google Analytics. We get, 6 times more traffic from Quora than the nearest one, which is also Facebook, the second one. So this really, really helps us to actually go and actually engage the community where it's already hanging out. And then the third one, this is one-to-one. This is the low-hanging fruit. This is my baby. I love this topic, and I could talk about it all day, but I believe we don't have that much time. So what I want to show you now is, what does it mean to actually go out and be active to people that are talking on social? So let me show you some statistics first. So the first question you're thinking is it worth my time? We know from personal experience that a lot of people use social media to complain. I do it. If ever I have a problem with an airline or something like that, I'm the first person to go to the Twitter feed and say, hey guys, I'm unhappy. But what we don't realize sometimes is that consumers are using social media also for positive purchasing decisions. So for over 14,000 people every single month, right, on social media, can anyone recommend? With various different answers and endings to that, but can anyone recommend? They're asking for advice. Over 30,000 people write on social media every single month, where can I buy? Like a very strong request for help with actually spending money. Now, it can be, where can I buy, a watch? It can be, where can I buy a car? There's so many variations to this, but they're all actually, what they are is they're purchasing decisions that actually consumers need help with. So what we started to do here is, I thought, well, these are great leads. Everybody should be doing it. But what we actually did is, I wanted to actually get some numbers behind this theory. So what I did is I picked 100 of those people that wrote, "Can anyone recommend?" on social media. I picked 100 of them over a couple of months, tried to spread it out as much as I could. And I decided to try and help them. I, as a complete stranger, decided to try and pitch them. So here's someone saying, "Can anyone recommend a good app for editing lock screens?" Very random, maybe even it's a B2C, low-level product, whatever you maybe decide it is. This post had 8 likes and 0 responses. So I went online, I did the research for him. I Googled, phone apps for editing lock screens, and I found a photo director from Cyberlink. And then something crazy happened for me as a salesperson. The consumer said, "Thank you." Now, I've done sales for 10, 12, 15 years. I've done cold calling, and I was used to people telling me to go and kill myself, go die. I hate you, stop calling me. And suddenly, a complete stranger who I just pitched a service right off the bat said thank you. And the numbers are astounding. So out of 100 people, 64% of them gave me a positive engagement. So they liked my recommendation, or they shared it, or they commented. 64% out of 100. What's more, let's say the reason why I'm so passionate and energetic about this type of social lead generation is 39% of them said thank you. 39 out of 100 people, 100 strangers who I only pitched them in 140 characters, a service or an option, said thank you out of 100. Now, what I want to do is I try to compare that to email. Now, I worked in email marketing, and email marketing is a very strong category for many people. But let's just try and compare it. Let's try and get as close to apples as we can. Email marketing on average in 2016 got 23% open rates and 3.2 click-through rates. This is what social media, this is what my humble small, and I agree that this is only a small variation, but these are the statistics that I got from my study. Now, I want to compare them because this is how I look at it. If somebody liked or shared or clicked on my recommendation, the company that I recommended or the brand I recommended on Twitter, I'm going to count that like an open. If somebody clicked on it, I can be extremely sure that they saw it in some way or shape or form, like we would track an open in email marketing. So we've got literally, two times the response rate from our social, from our lead gen and our kind of lead engagement on social than we would get from email. Now, I understand that email is scalable and so on, but again, if we're looking at getting started, especially when those first 100 sales are what your business needs, the engagement rate or the impression rate is twice as much as email. But the engagement rate, if we kind of clarify someone saying thank you as someone that would click a link in an email, because in my humble opinion, if somebody said thank you, it means that they at least valued or checked what I'd recommended them. We're talking about the fact that we're going from 3.2% of emails a click to 39% of my pitches on social media were engaged by the consumer. So we're looking at 10 times the effectiveness. So if you've got a small team or you've got limited hours, or these leads are so responsive, they really are dying for your help, and these leads are going on all the time. So, here we've got someone that's looking for a small business CRM. I recommended LiveSpace, and, this is where, consumers are happy that we're doing this. Now, here are some really, if you're not sure if this is for you, here are some statistics that might change your mind. 34%. This number is the number when I tagged 100 brands in my recommendations, 100. So every recommendation had a Twitter link where it was tagged, and they got that little notification in their team that someone had tagged them in a Twitter post. 34% of those brands actually joined the conversation. Actually liked the conversation in any way. They clicked or they showed any kind of engagement. 34% out of 100. So I just laid on the table to 66 brands a hot lead, and they didn't do anything with it. The number that's maybe even more concerning or more interesting for those who feel like they can do this, only 12% of those brands actually responded, like either thank you, Mick, for the recommendation, or they said to the consumer, hey, listen, we'd love to help you out. 12%. So 88 brands decided that they don't really need any hot leads. And what this probably means is, this is because they are larger corporations or something like that, that the social media team feels that they have no responsibility whatsoever to generating new business. They feel that their role is just to reply to complaining customers. So if you are a forward-thinking business and you see social as a lead generation platform and a sales platform, this is where you're going to find your leads. You can go out and even compete for the places that so someone can even tag your competitor as a recommendation, and 88% of the time, they're not even going to be there. So you can be there. You can offer value. And this is why social media is the low-hanging fruit, but the juiciest, freshest fruit on the market. Because what happened was, out of 100 tweets that I replied to and gave responses and gave recommendations to, in 60% of the cases, I was the only person to reply. So even friends, even families, even people that were not coming from a revenue or sales point of view were not replying and giving recommendations. 60 out of 100 times, people were saying, can anyone recommend X? And they were greeted with silence for over 2 months. So, this is such an open playing field right now for all of you that have cold calling strategies and you're working your team to the bone and you're wondering why it's so hard. There are some super easy, fresh leads out there on the market for you today. So here's just a few examples of how the market will move. So, and I have respect for this company. I don't mind it. So someone was asking for a social media calendar tool. I recommended Meet Edgar. They're our friends at Brand24. A lot of our clients use them. I can strongly recommend them without being concerned. The consumer said, thank you. And then look what Recur Post did. The next day, Recur Post actually found this conversation that had nothing to do with them. They may have well been tracking people that talk about Meet Edgar or people that talk about social media calendars, and they joined the conversation. But Meet Edgar didn't. So it's a very strong chance here that Jennifer definitely at least looked into Recur Post because they cared enough to be there. So even if you don't respond to your leads on social media, the future is that your competitors will. So it's really an area and a strong point where you can't afford to ignore it. Here's someone talking, about Sigtades of Salesforce. Again, so I can not only track people looking for alternative CRMs, I can find people that are talking about Salesforce. I can recommend LiveSpace. And these people are talking consistently, and it's not just B2B, it's not just hardcore sales. Does anyone have anything to recommend to do in Warsaw? There must be 10,000 businesses in Warsaw that offer things to do in the evenings, in the weekends, during the day. They probably all have very sophisticated AdWord campaigns to try and find people that type this into Google, but they're not finding the people that type this into social media. And these are going unanswered. And this was my recent one. Can anyone recommend an online survey tool? We use Typeform. Typeform is great. They replied, it's really great. I'm using it now. The most disappointing part about this tweet was that Typeform didn't engage it. So if you have a survey tool, find this tweet, reply that you want their business and you're willing to show them through it because you will beat your competitor. In 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, every business will be doing this type of sales. The businesses that win are the ones that do it now. Because here is the final slide that I have to show you before we see if we've got time for questions, which is HubSpot reports that 35 to 50% of all sales opportunities go to the first responder. This will be the same for social media. So right now you can go out and you can find 60% of all the people looking for help don't even have any response. So it's a free market. It's low hanging fruit. It's the easiest sales you will ever make. But as time goes by, it won't only be about replying, it will be about replying first and being fast. So now is the time to adapt your sales teams, your marketing team, whoever it is that can find time to do this, do it today. And again, we're happy to help you do this with Brand24, but even if not, go to twitter.com/search and just start doing the organic free version to prove that it works for you. Okay, guys, thank you so much for this opportunity today, for letting me share with you our humble knowledge and our humble experience. I'd love to hear your feedback. If anyone isn't sure of how they can do this for their business, I'd love to kind of spend some one-on-one time with you and challenge and see if we can do that. So firstly, thanks so much.